All right, it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call the Tazewell County Board meeting to order. John, if you could call the roll, please.
Atkins. Connett. Connett.
Here.
Crawford.
He's here.
Darcy.
Here.
Graff. Here. Hall. Harris.
Here.
Hovey.
Here.
Emmett.
Here.
Josting.
Here.
Longfellow.
Here.
Minold.
Here.
Minton.
Here.
Newhouser. Prail. Rich Stinson.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Scortino.
Here.
Sin.
Here.
Sundell.
Here.
Wolf. Chairman Zimmerman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. We'll do business. If we could rise for the invocation and pledge, please. Heavenly Father, thank you for the privilege of living in a free country. I pray that as you see the strife that we have throughout our country, we see pandemics, we see loss of life, that you can comfort us and know that if we only turn to you, we can find true peace. Thank you for this board and the fact that we can come together and debate issues and come back together after having debated those in a spirit of unity, making those decisions that are best for Tazewell County and that honor our citizens and you, Father. I lift up Tazewell County people tonight and some of our employees who are suffering through loss right now. I pray that you can comfort them as they go through these difficult times. I lift up Member Newhouser's father who has COVID and is working through that. Thank you for our first responders and our medical personnel as they work each day, protecting us and risking their own health and lives for us. We know that you're sovereign and providential and in control of all these circumstances, and we take hope in that. We pray all these things in your name. Amen. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Some of the important stuff first, if you don't know it, it's not Kim Justin's 65th birthday. We're not going to say. Thank you. There go my Medicare dollars. Communications from members of the public. We did receive one from Mr. Kevin Moody. He has CAM shooting range in Morton. So I'm going to read his comments here. In June of 2018, the Tazewell County Board passed a Second Amendment resolution, and he gives the reference, PDF reference. The Tazewell County Board passed this resolution signed by Christy Webb and David Zimmerman, agreeing to distribute copies to every member of the General Assembly in the office of the Governor. To my knowledge, this may not have been done. The resolution may not follow through as signed. With that said, I respectfully submit the following request. Please verify or repeat distribution of the Tazewell County Second Amendment resolution to every member of the General Assembly in the office of the Governor. With the current malfunctions of the Illinois State Police Firearms Services Bureau, FOID cards and CCL permits are being delayed far beyond legal limits of the Illinois law that require new applicants of FOID and CCL to be approved or received within 30, 90, or 120 days, respectively. Please refer to 430 ILCS 66.5, 430 ILCS 66.10, and 430 ILCS 66.30. This denial / withholding of licensure is a violation of the Illinois State Constitution and the U.S. Constitution as clearly stated in the Second Amendment resolution passed by the Board. The further malfunction of the Firearms Services Bureau has made it impossible for them to be contacted by phone and will not respond to emails. They have put out extensions for renewals and general statements to answer inquiries. There are law-abiding citizens of Tazewell County being denied their Second Amendment rights. This is not a possible infringement of bill of legislation or anti-gun political promise. It is a failure of the state of Illinois in violation of constitutional rights, specifically the 2nd, 4th, and 14th Amendments. Under Illinois law, a person cannot possess a firearm without a FOID, even in their own home, leaving them defenseless or face possible prosecution and forfeiture of property. It is unacceptable for the state of Illinois or any state in our nation to do this to law-abiding citizens. With that, I respectfully make the following and second request. The Tazewell County Board, on behalf of the citizens of Tazewell County, in following their Second Amendment resolution passed in June of 2018 that states the right of the people to keep and bear arms for self-defense is regarded as an inalienable right of the people of Tazewell County, Illinois, writes a letter to the Illinois State Police Firearms Services Bureau requesting the immediate issuance of all FOID CCL permits being withheld beyond time Illinois law allows. Thank you, Kevin. That was the only comment that I received this week. So, any communications from elected or appointed county officials? John, I believe you had something that you wanted to talk about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to update the board on where we're at with the 2020 election. And believe it or not, we need to look forward to the 2021 election, which will take place in April, because petition drives for that will begin in September. So just a brief update on that as well. 2020 election, I want to thank the board members. Several of you have reached out and called my staff and thanked them for the long hours that they're putting in to pull this election off. It is much appreciated. Each one of them come up and tell me each time that you do it, and I appreciate that and thank you, because it is something that they're putting in some long hours, lots of phone calls. It's nonstop from beginning of the day to the end of the day, every day that we're coming in. So they appreciate your remarks and your thoughts. Along with that, just to let you know, the Recorder of Deeds office, I believe, is now a month and a half ahead in recordings. The point in the recording documents that they're at now, a month and a half later last year they were. So that's how much additional work has come through that office at the same time, so they're being pulled as well. We are currently standing at over 11,000 vote by mail requests. They keep coming in every day. There was a new push this last weekend from another group of applications going out to individuals. So we're seeing another large mass deposit of requests coming in. They have slowed down a bit, as you've seen by the numbers I've been sending you regularly, that this trend is starting to slope downward. So I'm hoping that it doesn't, we'll see how it continues. I do estimate that we'll probably end up around 15,000 when it's all said and done. We have doubled the amount of our early voting opportunities. Well, first, I guess some of you have asked, will all of our polling locations be open on election day? They will be in Tazewell County. We will have all of our polling locations, normal ones, open and staffed. We have doubled our early voting off-site opportunities. That's where we go to the 5 communities in Tazewell County. We have them open here in Pekin, Morton, Washington, Tremont, and Fond du Lac. Those are available for any resident of Tazewell County. Can go to any of those locations and vote. Rather than just one weekend, we've done 2 weekends this year. So it'll be October 16th to the 18th and October 23rd to the 25th. The other thing we did different is, rather than we used to spread them out, we've combined them all into 2 weekends so that we can do an advertisement bomb of, hey, this is when early voting is on. We thought we could get the message. Instead of it being confusing, one day in Morton, one day here, we're at these 5 locations, these 2 weekends. We'll be sending out a postcard to all Tazewell County households that has that information on there before, probably the 1st of October, we'll mail that out so that they can see that and know that that opportunity for in-person early voting is available. We begin in-person early voting at the courthouse, at my office on September the 24th. That'll be the first day for them, and that'll be the day that we mail out all of those, right now 11,000 vote by mail requests. Those ballots will be mailed out at that date. It is my hope that people don't wait until the last minute and mail them in all at the end, but that rather, and I think all election offices are pressing, if you know who you're going to vote for, vote as soon as you get the ballot, so that those vote by mail requests come in more spread out rather than slamming at the very end. Regardless, I've also had questions, will we have election results on election night? We will. We will have the election results on election night. What we might not have is how many vote by mail ballots are still in the mail. So that gets back to mail them in as soon as you get one. They have until election day to put it in the mail. And as long as it's postmarked election day, this is nothing new. This happens every election. They have up to 2 weeks for us to receive them in the mail. We don't close any election until 2 weeks after election day. It has been that way for as long as we've had vote by mail, over a decade. Nothing has changed there. I know there's a lot of talk, well, we won't know the results for 2 weeks. You'll have all the results as of 7 o'clock on election day, on election night. That amount that's left out, we'll know what that amount is as well, and that'll determine whether or not races can be called. But results will be out on election night. Looking ahead to 2021, I'm putting in my budget what we need to run an election, the regular base. We are not receiving and will not be receiving any state or federal funding to assist as they did with this election. They have already told us that. So all of the things that we've done to make it easier for people during a pandemic, which may still be going on in April, I won't be able to do them under the current guidelines. I want to hear from you guys, from the county board, what do you want me to add? The vote by mail applications we mass mailed to everybody was nice. I don't know if we need to mail them to everybody. Maybe we mail, like I'm doing with this postcard, to every household a notice of how you can request vote by mail. There's an idea on how you could lower the cost of that. Off-site early voting, do you want that for the April 1? Do you not? Those are things we normally wouldn't do. Like I said, I'm just going to present you with a normal year's budget for election. And then if you guys could let me know what items you believe have worked, I'll add them then to the budget per your request. Tell you what the funding is so that we can add that. But I really could use your help on just what items do you want to go with. The date of the election is set. I don't have it in front of me and I apologize, but it is going to happen in April. It's not as if, can we push the election off? That's not an option we have. We must have the election in April on the date that's already selected. And again, I apologize for not having that. So this is something we would need to decide. But I'd appreciate any assistance the board can do with providing what has worked for you, what hasn't, what would you like to see. That's all of the ones I had. I know, Dave, you had a question that you said you'd received concerning.
I just have had a couple people ask me if I receive an absentee ballot and I go to my polling place at the same day, how do they, if someone doesn't double vote?
Yeah, how do we prevent people from double voting? Exactly, I appreciate that. The way we do that is when we print off your ballot and so we've gotten your request now. When we print off your ballot to put it in the envelope to mail you, we remove your name from being able to take a ballot at your polling location. When you go into a polling location, they have the spindle that your name is on. Your name will not be on that spindle. My judges also know, they've all been trained. If you request one, hey, I have a vote by mail ballot and I left it at home, can you just get me another one? No. Go home and get the ballot. If you say your dog ate it, we try to determine, did your dog really eat it? If the dog did eat it, if it's destroyed or something, you've lost it, whatever. Everybody has the right to vote, so you will be able to vote. However, it'll be a provisional ballot only. You need to sign an affidavit saying that you have not voted at any other location. We will give you a provisional ballot, which means it will not be counted on election night. We will hold that vote to guarantee that you haven't voted any other time, and we'll wait until 2 weeks after the election when we canvass the vote, when we close the election. That's when we'll count those votes then. But that's the fraud prevention that has been built into the system for a long time to guarantee that everybody only gets one ballot. It is impossible for you to ask, I have 6 applications, I'll send all 6 in. You can, but you're only going to get one ballot. You can send in as many applications as you want, but we're only processing one for a ballot. You will not, there isn't a way that anybody can get multiple ballots. Yes, sir.
Could you explain how my mother got 2 ballots then?
Your mother got the one from the nursing home that we mailed to her.
She did an absentee one,
Yes.
and then, if you recall, they didn't count that or anything, they just left it in a pile of other ones, and she was given another ballot to vote again.
Yes.
So how do they get 2 ballots when you just said that that would never happen? That's why, you know, if you explain how it won't.
The second request was processed improperly, and that allowed for a second one to go out. But that procedure has been corrected so that that will not take place ever again.
I guess my other question is,
Yes.
absentee ballots, why do they not count those as they come in, or, you know, on election day?
We do count those on election day. Those come through, the vote by mail applications that we've received at 7 o'clock. Those are put into a tabulator and held, and then we bring them in. Those are reported on election night. It's vote by mail ballots that we receive after 7 o'clock and for the next 2 weeks that have been postmarked on election day. Those ones we hold for the 2 weeks and then count at the very end.
So, if you get 2 ballots with the same name on there, what do you do?
On that case, if there was 2 ballots that came in with the same name, 2 people registering, we would have to contact the individual and find out which one they wanted to use.
Because I was thinking when they sign their name to it, there shouldn't be any way that another ballot should be presented to them.
And under the situation that we dealt with last time, there was a procedural, they didn't follow the procedure, and that's why it got released. And yes, but that's been capped so that will not ever happen again.
So you can guarantee that that won't ever take place again?
Yes, that case was very unusual, and that one, there was a sidestep of the system that should not have taken place.
Okay.
Brandon?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ackerman, has the Illinois State Board of Elections published any guidelines relevant to Member Jostein's question? Have any higher election authorities made any statements in regards to that? Because on one hand, I am seeing that that very well could be an outlier, a one-time deal. But at the same point in time, if this could have happened somewhere else, what have they said about this?
Well, the procedures that we follow, the fraud prevention procedures that have been in place for a long time are from the State Board of Elections, and that is a system that's set up throughout the state to guarantee only 1 ballot per person. That was an underliner again in that the employee didn't follow the standard for a number of reasons, but they should have stuck to the procedures that are in place.
And in regards to that, Mr. Ackerman, I do want to detail this. In no way or form am I trying to micromanage your office. But what I am doing is I am illustrating a concern that I have for my fellow taxpayers. Again, I'm not trying to micromanage your office. You have a job to do by the Illinois State Constitution. But what I am asking is, are procedures being followed? And when the wheels fall off, do we take a step back, assess where the problem is, and correct it? Because I hope that's what we do.
And that's what took place in that situation. We immediately figured out where the error had taken place and corrected it.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Any other comments?
About this, or
It's just communications from elected and appointed officials.
I have communications.
Okay.
It's not about that.
Okay. Go ahead, Russ.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John, you and I have known each other a long time. I've been your mentor, I've been your friend. But I'm going to make some comments that are sort of good news and bad news. The good news is, you're right about what you said about your office and your staff. They do a great job, so the quality of their work is very good. And I would also add that starting now, or actually a little bit before now, it's sort of like when I was auditor and we did the budget, the work becomes very great because of the election. So not only are they working harder and longer, but they're working better. So that's all good. That's the good side. The other side is this. The county clerk and the county are co-employers. I don't want to pat myself on the back, but I'm almost an expert on internal control for lots of reasons that I won't go into. I get cranked off when any county officer abuses the normal process of pay and wages in Tazewell County. I get upset when we're having great financially good years. So this isn't about the fact that, our years is not good and it sort of sucks and we've got to do everything we can to hold the fort. But that makes it particularly upsetting. There are between the merit pay and the cost of living and the budgetary process, there's lots of ways for a department head or a county officer to adequately reward and recognize the efforts of the employees. And that's what I expect you to do. I do not expect you to be a lone ranger when it comes to pay. I do not expect you to just flip a coin or do whatever you do in your office and come up with a bonus or some special rigged deal. That upsets me when anybody does it. It's a good thing I'm not the county auditor still, because we'd have regular meetings until it stopped. So I'm asking you, as your friend and a longtime mentor, and by the way, I just got a notice last month that it happened again. In this case, the recorder's son. I don't want to see that again. And I'm not asking you to be secretive. I'm asking you to stop it and use the regular schedule that we ask the state's attorney, the zoning administrator, and every other leader of an office, and you are a leader, to use. And this is not a question. I don't really expect a response. In fact, a response from you at this point would probably just piss me off more. So please go to school on that, think about it, pray about it, do whatever you want to do about it, and hopefully you'll make the right decision. If not, we'll talk again. Thank you.
Any other comments? Kind of on that same thing, and at the advice of some outside counsel, it's imperative that this board communicate clearly, loudly, and often how much we disagree with the raises that we're given. And so I'm going to start doing this at each meeting so that if it ever goes to arbitration, it's pretty clear. And this is no reflection on John's employees. John has outstanding employees. But I just wanted to go through just a couple things. The unemployment rate in Tazewell County is 11.3%. 1 in 10 people in our county are out of work. Business taxes, these are from the IML site, in 21 will be down 20%. PPRT this year will be down 17%, 11% next year. These are all estimates. LGDF 10% this year, 10% next year. Motor fuel taxes down, income tax, sales tax are all down. And we have one office in our county where their employees are getting 22% increases. That's $92,250 above what the board approved year to date, and that number continues to grow. Where that really is going to mess us up is when we go to contract negotiations, and depending on what the other unions do, this could end up costing Tazewell County taxpayers an additional $500,000. $500,000. And so I think we need to state this loudly and clearly. As one board member told me recently, John has put this county on a glide path towards bankruptcy. John, by his own admission, doesn't have money after 5 years to pay these things. So I just wanted to put that out there too. Russ and I didn't coordinate, and I'm not trying to pile on John, but the actions that John took there's a lot of collateral damage, and it's not just his office, it's the entire county. So that's my comments for the evening. Brandon?
Mr. Chairman, I want to join in and communicate my displeasure with this because we're looking at just a saga of financial attacks. We have this $500,000 here from the raises. We have the $500,000 possible, excuse me. We have the $500,000 from IMRF. And we have the whole host of problems from the fiasco with our county auditor. So we have a triple punch that we're going to have to work on recovery. So I want to voice my displeasure, my anger, personally and professionally. And above all, Mr. Chairman, we're in a despicable state from this. Thank you.
Is there anything we can do besides state it full board? We did a censure. Is there any public thing we can?
We continue to look at our options. We keep speaking with our
Transfer. That's what it's there for.
All right, any other comments? All right, thanks everyone. Can I get a motion to approve the July 29th meeting minutes? Motion by Linton, second by Connett. Now those were sent out. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The minutes passed. I believe we have Chris Setti on the line. We do have an EDC presentation. There should be literature in front of your places. So Chris, are you on the line?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just great. Go ahead, Chris.
Great. Well, first of all, thank you. This is not the way I would love to make these sorts of presentations. I'd rather be there with you all at Beacon, but we'll suffice with, well, I guess this is really 1950s technology of me being on the phone, but so thank you all for the opportunity. I'll try to be brief and point to a few things that I shared with you. I'd like to start by just giving you an economic update regarding how things are going in the region and in Tazewell County. And that's what there's a page here that you should have on your desk. It's called Labor Force Update. We're 1 day early. If we were having this meeting next week, we would have July unemployment numbers. We were actually hoping that they would come out last Thursday, but I think with everything else, IDS has been delayed as a lot of their employees are working from home, so everything's been delayed by a week. So we're hoping that the July unemployment numbers come out tomorrow, and then we'll be able to update these analyses and then send them. We'll send them to Wendy Farrell and Dave Zimmerman to share with you. But as you can see, we've seen an uptick in the last few months, which is obviously good news. We're not quite where we want to be, which is the bad news. But we are seeing things obviously trending in the right direction. With both unemployment and with our labor force rate. And what I do always point out to folks is that obviously the April was probably the low point because of just the way that unemployment is calculated. Most people that lost their jobs lost them at the end of March and the early part of April, and so April was by far the low point. But we were actually on a bit of decline, and you kind of see that in this graph, really for the last year and a half. Largely in the manufacturing field, as Caterpillar and all of the supply chain, the local supply chain that feeds up into Caterpillar, had kind of pulled back. The nature of the cyclical economy that we have, that Caterpillar rides, and so does the entire region. But things are obviously picking up, and that's good. The bottom half of that page is interesting to me. It's employment by industry, and two things I would point out. One is that the difference in professional, is in leisure and hospitality. I guess there's really just one: it's leisure and hospitality. While we've seen strong job growth, the addition between May and June of 6,000, nearly 6,000 jobs. From June to June, we're still down 22,000 jobs. But of the 22,000 jobs is the difference between June 2019 and June 2020. 10,000 of them are in leisure and hospitality. That is the real impact that we think that COVID has had. It certainly has an impact across the board, and there's been pain that has been spread across nearly every industry. You can kind of see that here. As you know, we compare these numbers. But it's really in the hospitality industry. That's hotel workers, restaurant workers, bar workers, people working in entertainment, venues like movie theaters and things like that. That is really where we've seen the impact, and we'll likely continue to see the impact. We have heard from restaurants and bars who may not be doing. Some of them are still doing very poorly, and some are doing okay, but they're doing so because they have much less staff. So their profit is the same as it was previous, but they're paying a lot less people to make that money. And so that has an impact downstream on employees. From a regional perspective, I think one of the most difficult parts of dealing with a large group of unemployed people in that particular industry is that they're usually in that industry because they lack a lot of the skills that are required in order to be in the industries that are growing. And as we see more of a rebound in the economy, and we're starting to see an uptick in manufacturing, and obviously healthcare continues to be strong, we need to make sure that those people are employed. So my organization, along with lots of organizations, are working towards that, working very closely with our partners at Illinois Central College. We are blessed as a region to have an institution like Illinois Central College that is as flexible and entrepreneurial as they are in developing rapid solutions so that these people can hopefully be rapidly be trained into the jobs that will become available. So then just to kind of more quickly switch to what Greater Peoria UC has been up to over those last few months. I will tell you that it's the busiest I have ever been in my now relatively long professional career of 25 some odd years. These last few months have been an incredible whirlwind activity for my organization. As I mentioned, it has been for all of you who are both in elected positions, appointed positions, and who are everyday staffers. It's not that easy for government. We have really focused our attention at Greater Peoria UC on continuing to do the things that we've always done with business attraction and innovation, business assistance, but really pivoting to help small businesses in a way we've never really done before. We've never been an organization that focuses on retail businesses, but recognizing the real economic blow that this public health crisis has had on small businesses. That's really where we pivoted as an organization. As you can kind of see here in the top top left corner, Tazewell County COVID business grants. This is up to date regarding the types of money that has been funneled into Tazewell County businesses from a variety of different programs. We don't take any credit for some of these, but we will take a little bit of credit for helping Tazewell County with what is the Downstate Business Stabilization Grant. My thanks to Chairman Zimmerman, the county board, as well as Wendy Farrell for allowing us to work with you to make this happen. The Downstate Stabilization Program is a very complicated state program. As Ms. Farrell will tell you, her and I have been trading emails even as of about 45 minutes ago regarding this program. But without your leadership, these 23 businesses wouldn't have received or in the process of receiving nearly $475,000. We have another 25 businesses who still pending for another $500,000. So we don't believe all 25 of those businesses will be awarded, but that probably between $700,000 and $800,000 awarded to the small businesses in your community to help keep them afloat. I think it's a really important success that you all can claim as a Tazewell County board, because you're the ones that made it happen. Because they had to go through the units of local government to have this happen, we would have had to rely not only on the larger villages like Morton and Washington and East Peoria, but the smaller villages like Creve Coeur that would have had a really hard time putting this together. So my thanks to the county board. The other thing I think I want to focus in on is just being a conduit of information, a collector and then a conduit of information. From March 15th until this week, 65 different times we have blasted out an email. And we really try to serve as a megaphone that shoots that message into more megaphones. And so I don't know if some of these have got to you, either from me sending it to Dave or to Wendy or through one of our partners. But as many of you know, there was nothing but information that was out there swirling around. We tried to catalog and curate that information so that it was relevant and timely for businesses. And then we used our friends at like the Morton Chamber of Commerce and the Pekin Chamber of Commerce to then rebroadcast that daily email. And it was daily for a while, and then it was bi-weekly, and now it's a little bit more incidental or episodic, since the information isn't changing as quickly. And so we imagine that, you know, between all of the chambers and all the other places, that thousands of businesses saw this every day. And hopefully we're able to then take advantage of some of those other programs like the business interruption grants and the emergency hospitality grants. We have developed a website, www.gpcovid.com. Some of you may have heard me on Greg and Dan show every Monday morning for the last 5 months or 4 months or so, talking about this issue and promoting this particular website. Which has been clicked on thousands of times and clicked through hundreds and hundreds of times, so we know that people are going to this website and getting the information they need. I will leave it at that. I know you imagine you have a long meeting ahead of you, and be happy to answer any questions. If I can't see you raise your hand, I will rely on Chairman Zimmerman if there are questions that you would have for me.
So are there any questions? I just want to reiterate the EDC's help with the downstate business, small business stabilization grants. We couldn't have done it without them. And so we appreciate that. Chris, thanks so much for your presentation, and we look forward to working close in the future.
Great, thank you, Ed, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, item 5 on the consent agenda will automatically be pulled because it's a replacement hire. Anything else to be pulled? Brandon?
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain from item F 2018.
What number, I'm sorry?
F 2018, your finance.
Number 3.
Okay.
Number 3, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay, great. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vicky?
Could we discuss number 4?
Number 4? Okay, we'll pull number 4. And we'll pull 3 just so Randy can abstain. Any other issues? Russ?
I have a question on 8 or 9. I don't need to pull them both, but one of them.
Okay. Okay.
Which one are you pulling?
Well, let's
8.
pull- let's
I
pull
don't care. If you care, that's fine. If you don't care, 8.
We'll pull 8. Okay. Any others? Yeah, if we could use our microphones too, that would help.
Sorry.
For you in the back, yeah, okay. So, okay, can I get a motion for the remainder? Motion by Graff, second by Crawford. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And then the appointments A through J, can I get a motion? Motion by Sundell, second by Atkins. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Back to our agenda. Can I get a motion to pull F 2018 number 3? Motion by Mitten, second by Atkins. This was pulled so that Brandon can abstain. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And one abstention. Thanks, Brandon. Motion passes. Can I get a motion for F 2020? Motion by Darcy, second by Roberts. Mindy, you have some questions?
Okay, so I have a couple questions, as I usually do, what I ask. Okay, so the 6.5% that we're asking all departments to reduce their budgets by, I am curious at this point, so it's kind of a multi-parted question, what is our current projected impact on our budget? As we have seen some financial information come out, where do we feel like we're gonna maybe end up? Like, can we project that out? Where do we feel like we'll be? What is maybe the potential impact on, I think we were okay with going ahead and using some of our reserve, and curious what the impact to the reserve, as we could best tell. I know it's not a done thing yet. And then what will these budget parameters, the 6.5% decrease in budget amounts, and some of the other items that you have here, where do we think that will make up, like the difference it will make up? And I did miss the finance meeting, so I'm sorry if you kind of went through this.
We did at the finance meeting, but it's a good topic for the entire board. So I'll have Craig probably chime in with some, since he does all the detail work, right? And then he explains it all to me and we work together on it. But what we did, so just so you see, this first point, general fund departments are asked to reduce the overall budget by 6.5% of the fiscal year 20 budgeted amounts. What that basically did is, this is just to get that operating deficit to a 0. And that's kind of like always been the push, right? So if we want to get to a $0 operating deficit, that's what we need to do. We need to reduce all general fund by 6.5. I realize this is a heavy task. I realize it means things we don't want to touch, right? But right now, our operating deficit, if we stayed at those 20 levels, would be 1.8 million. So we have a big chunk to cut out. And we changed kind of how we've done this. In the past, we've always done this, like, take this much out of capital, take this much out of commodities. But I think as we've done this and we've kind of learned, we need to let the departments figure out where these cuts should come from and how they should come. And so that's what I put forth. It doesn't mean that the board couldn't say, we're comfortable with a $500,000 deficit. We've done that in the past. So that's what we did there. The capital expenditures, those were the pieces that we put money aside to do some of these, because what we were facing is that we were continuously having things break. And so we were under the gun of, we couldn't bid it, right? It's something goes down, and then when you can't bid something, what you end up with is a higher dollar price, right? And I think we had about 6 of those in a time period of a few years, and we just kind of got to that point where we were done. So we tried to put a plan together to address those. I believe I said this before, Mike Shoney is so tight. I mean, he's one of the tightest people I've ever worked with. I love it, by the way. Just it makes my job easier, right? But he still runs into issues. And we have electrical at the courthouse that will have to be done. We wanted to do it this year. We don't think we're going to be able to this year. We think it's going to have to push to next year. And we have those repairs at the post office that will have to be done because it's just degrading that building. The leaking roof, the walls, the windows, all of that. So that's where that will kind of be decided by property committee, kind of looking at it, but we have those funds set aside for those projects. But we're trying to be very careful with that as well. Non-union employees will not be given a general wage increase, and what we did is kind of the process that we've done in the past, which is if there's money available for merit, then that will be considered. It always comes down to those bottom budget numbers, right? And that's what we're trying to get the focus on, because in the policy it says if there are funds available. Well, we only know if the funds are available by the time we get through with the budget, right? So, and that part is figured in. Funding to outside agencies, we have a number of outside agencies that we are working with, so it was reducing by 10% all of those, and they're listed there. Deviations, we're asking that they be explained as we kind of go through it, and we're asking that all of our other, like the special revenue fund, we just want them to submit a balanced budget. We're not telling them how to do it. We're not saying, and so those will be things. Sometimes that's difficult in highway, right? So that will be, because it's a project-based kind of, they save up money, then they spend. That will be an explanation to the board. And then you guys get to decide if that's good or if you want more, right? So, so that was kind of the path we took on this. We know 6.5 has caused heartburn with everybody. I can tell you, David and I have been working just on the budgets that we have something to do with, right? County board and county administration. And there's no easy answer. So that was kind of where we came to this year. Craig, I'll let you speak to kind of how we think the end of the year will go, but I do think commitments that we received from everybody to kind of pull back the spending has definitely helped us. So I'll let you kind of explain that.
Yeah, right now, and still a lot of moving parts, but it looks like we'll end up fairly flat for this fiscal year. Outside of all the capital and the projects that we have, revenue has come in far better than we expected at the beginning of all this. Sales tax is kept up. Use tax, which is a lot of online taxes, is way higher than we budgeted. Income tax is way over budget this year. We were a little conservative when budgeting the income tax is over next year, but remember that income tax is on 2018 in earnings that were paid in 2019. So next year, last year we had 4 or 5% unemployment. Now we're looking at 12% unemployment. So income taxes, we're projecting a big hit for next year. But this year, revenue is held up. We've had some commitments to cut some costs this year, which helped a lot. So we're looking, crossing our fingers that we should be fairly flat this year.
We also had John Horan, I feel like I sent it out, and if I didn't, I will send it out, but he had a number of, I think he got 4 positions converted. So what they are is, you either have what they consider, the school formula is, they call it full funding. It might not be the full salary for probation officers, but it's quite a substantial portion of it. So those are salary, or those are reimbursements for that, and then there's a stipend. Well, that's $1,000 a month, so it's $12,000 a year goes to some probation officers' positions. Well, John worked in his plan, and so he ended up getting 4 of those positions converted from that $12,000 a year over to these where they give the reimbursement up to like whatever the amount is, and what it came out to be is $188,000, I believe, this year, which is huge. And they allowed him to go back to last July and re-voucher all of those, and we were able to obtain that. And that's just John being kind of keyed into what's going on at the AOIC, knowing that he could do this. He's working on a couple of others. Those are huge for Tazewell County because they may reduce that amount of funding, but it'll always be more than $12,000. So that was kind of came out of nowhere for us, which is great because they're all in the general fund, and that's how we're paying. So those are amazing things, and that will go forward into the future. So we feel like, I know we're usually your gloom and doomers, and as accountants, you always want to be conservative, which is partly why you see your revenue numbers being a little bit more conservative because you don't know. My other concern for next year is as the state pays for all the stuff that has been done, what ends up happening is they push down on local governments. And so where we may be waiting like 3 months to get collections just because they collect it voucher remit, I've been, when I was at the Village Morton, 5 months or more where they held those dollars. So that's a scary, it puts us in a scary place because we are at the whim of the state in some of these situations. And so as I kind of am looking forward, there's a little bit of nerves there. Does that answer some of them?
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Monica?
I apologize, I did not say anything the other day. I didn't really look at this that carefully. There's it's on the page of the resolution. It says that non-union employees will not be given a general wage increase. An increase in performance is established by the policy statement, contingent upon funds available in the approved budget. Notwithstanding the clerk recorder's office, we have a lot of non-union positions, don't we?
We do. We do. I mean, yeah.
All right, and then the contracts, that we handed out, we have what, at least 1.5%?
Probably, I mean, they're in that 1.5, 2, because when we were negotiating this, it was
Is there
around
any
the 2.
cost of living built into this at all for these individuals?
There, at this point, there's not. It's really hard for me to, on one hand, bring up cost of living when I'm saying cut 6.5%, because I know what that other side is, right? You don't get 6.5% just by, we only have so much in contractual commodities, and I understand, and you guys get to make this decision.
Right. Well, what I want everyone to keep in mind that as the clerk reporter has done this, what he has done with his individuals, we have all these other employees that are under contract that are not getting as much, but they're getting something. And we know we're going to be hit. Then we're going to leave these other individuals out here in no man's land. And I think that's happened a few years ago when we were under some strains back in 07, 08, 09. And they got kind of bumped out and got stuck and they got kind of looked over. And they've not been able to make that up. So I want people kind of aware of that. And I think there's quite a few of them that have got that bump that kind of like used as a speed bump. So let's be aware of that.
And I am. I know you're also making sure the board is, and I completely am aware of it. It's
right, but
like that hard place. I know.
Right, and I know that what has transpired these last few months isn't fair to the other union employees, but yet this has happened to these people before. And they got stuck pretty good. And they haven't been able to get out of that. So I think, I don't know, the sheriff's office had a problem. I'm sure they did a few years ago. Well, and you were here, so you know. And there was other departments.
So that's a problem, that, you know, when the unions are under contract and the wages keep rising, that gap between the managers.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
Yeah. So, thanks for bringing that up, Monica. Greg?
Wendy, when you said balanced budget, can departments assume the same levy as last year when they're looking at cost or looking at income?
I think Brandon hit on it. IMRF, right, is going to require more. Fortunately, kind of looking at the numbers, what I see is, I probably would, I mean, seriously, but risk management looks like I won't have to levy as much, so I'll be able to move some from there. My hope is to not take, right, like from any of them. My hope is to kind of get through so that we can kind of either keep them level or spread a little bit of extra out. There won't be a lot extra, unfortunately, this year, but definitely my hope is to avoid that. And of course, it always comes down to those final numbers and where those numbers kind of come.
And one of the final numbers that seems to bug everybody is how's insurance looking?
I don't know yet. You have to have 9 months. You have to have 9 months of history for them to give you numbers. I start pushing on them in July just because I have to be the squeaky wheel. And so we put in an increase. And one of my thoughts, and I haven't worked this out, it was kind of, you know, I think we put in a 10% increase and trying to figure out a way to either give, let's say it's not 10%, let's say it's 8%, would there be a way to give back what that increase is to departments, you know, so then they have a little bit extra, because if they bring in a balanced budget, then they would have a little bit extra revenue, and then if they had something we had kind of put off, it requires some more thought and work, I think, between Craig's brain and me throwing out ideas at the poor guy. But that's what we've put in right now. My hope is it will be less. We have had a couple of cases. My hope is that they're just kind of those one-off cases that don't drive up and get people lasered. That's what drives our costs.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor of item F2020 signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Can I get a motion for HR 2021? Motion by Imig, second by Connett. This is just a replacement hire. We just automatically pull those. Are there any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And then finally, E 2087, can I get a motion? Motion by Darcy, second by Sin. Russ, I believe you pulled this?
Yeah, I just wanted to have somebody in authority confirm to me what my original expectations were, and that is that the Tazewell County taxpayers, other than the people in Heritage Lake, will not be affected in any way by any assessments or taxes. In other words, the original agreement was they would pay not just their fair share, but they would pay for all of it, and Tazewell County generally would not pay, because when we say Tazewell County will pay or pay for part of it, what that really means is that taxpayers in Tazewell County who don't live there end up subsidizing that, which is wholly unfair. So I just want somebody to confirm that with these two